Hunters, what made you never visit the woods again? Camping alone in the middle of Missouri the night before turkey hunting. The place I found was a fairly well-used campsite, but no one was there. About to go to sleep when I hear a truck come up. I find a reason to come out, use the restroom, so I can get a look and maybe even ask for some good places to spot turkey. It's a dude and his girlfriend drinking beers and going for a ride. They are super nice, but they mentioned after our chat and before leaving, watch yourself out here. Lots of meth heads and they won't stop for bird shot. Want a slug? I probably have a few in my toolkit. I did not sleep at all that night. I spend a lot of time in the backcountry in the winter time. Usually it's just me and a friend. Most trails we do are popular in the summer, and totally dead once it starts to snow. Winter in 2014, we've hiked about 2 miles in and see this small black backpack in the middle of the trail. We hadn't seen any other cars at the trailhead or any people around, but this backpack hadn't been there long because there wasn't any snow on it. It had snowed the night before. It was a very odd sight. We figured if it was still on the trail when we looped around we'd pick it up. About 4 miles in and my friend and I are chatting away when I notice a large figure flailing in some trees up ahead. We go quiet and can hear this man rambling while he's pacing. At this point we're pretty freaked out and decide to turn around when we hear, "Oh, hi there," and this guy starts walking towards us, and then out pops another guy with a very pricey looking video camera. It turned out this flailing guy was actually a rapper and they were filming a music video for one of his new songs out in the forest. They had parked before the trailhead so we didn't notice their car. They ended up being super friendly and gave us a card, and we figured out it was their backpack we had seen on the trail the few miles before. We said our goodbyes and walked out. But hot damn, I was sure we were about to be killed in the woods. Edit, holy shit. Wow. So many people. So many things. I did not expect this. Also updated the year to 2014. I will try my hardest to find the rap video/artist. But as I've explained in the comments, my mind was a little stuck on, while we're not being murdered right now, how nice, and it was 4 years ago. Edit 2, it was not the Migos video. But keep sending me other music videos that you think it might be, because I have no idea where to begin. We're gonna find this out together, guys. So I have 2 stories. First, the not so creepy one. I was about 20 miles out in the backcountry on a week-long hunting trip. By myself. Woke up in the middle of the night to a bear sticking its snout into the fabric of my tent. I immediately started meditating to slow my breath and just weather the situation. Because I knew if I moved or made a run for my car I'd be dead. The next morning I found some paw prints and they were the biggest bear prints I've ever seen. Second. Very creepy story. Was deep in the woods this time too. Set up camp in a very nice little ravine. When I woke up there was a ring of big rocks around my camping area. They weren't there when I got there /set up camp. I'm also a stout dude and I couldn't move any of the rocks. I was raised in the woods and now I refuse to go out there without a large caliber gun, and I refuse to sleep out in the woods anymore. Edit, my first Reddit silver. Noise. Thank you. Gold now. First time I've ever had gold. Thank you. My dad's story, not mine. I had been walking for a couple hours, and I decided to sit under a tree for a while, just see what would happen. As I was relaxing, I noticed this light that kept flashing past my eyes. I looked over to where it was coming from, but I couldn't see what was there. Then I looked down and there was a red dot on my chest. Some asshole was using a laser sight and aiming at me. I yelled at him and started walking towards him, but he ran off. I went back to camp for the rest of the day. He didn't think someone was actually trying to shoot him, but if people aren't going to be safe with their rifles, he didn't want to be out there. I walked up on a meth lab, not sure if that is the right term, while scouting for a hunting spot. I noped the hell out of there immediately. I had never encountered such a thing before, and in hindsight the smell should have been a dead giveaway. It wasn't until I was standing there looking at what looked like a bunch of garbage under camo tarps and such that I realized what I was looking at. Edit, I walked back to where I had cell service, called the sheriff and showed him on a map where it was. Bunch of them went in, found nobody, and made me wait with another officer for over an hour by the cruisers. Not a hunter, but a herper. I was looking for amphibians and reptiles with a few classmates at a local park during a herpetology class last summer, when we came across 2 little wooden teepees and a card table covered in animal bones. It looked like we walked right into the Blair Witch Project. Each of the structures had little altars that contained more bones in jars, plants, and other weird little trinkets. We got out of there fast and told the volunteer coordinator we were working with. We found out a while later that apparently, some homeschooled kids nearby liked to play in the woods and they had most likely collected the things we saw. I understand making forts in the woods, but the structures these kids made were freaky AF. I've heard a lot of stories. Creepy shit. Lots of women's clothing, ripped to shreds. Lean-tos and shanties that look like someone just walked away from it, still warm, not a sound around, nobody seen. Big things moving in the swamp. Tree stands ripped out of trees with a lot of bark clawed down to the hardwood underneath. Feeling of being watched, or stalked. Sudden pit in your stomach, hair stands up, a feeling that something is wrong and you need to get the fuck out of there. If you get that feeling, it's best to get out. There's a sort of primordial gut sense that our ancestors had, and we still have some of it today. Couple of years ago I was in northern British Columbia on a fishing trip with my dad, uncle, and cousins. The lake and river was a 2-hour drive from the nearest city. We were drifting down the river when I needed to go to the bathroom, so I got out of the boat. As I'm doing my business, I look over and see what seems to be the top of a building. I turned to the people in the boat and told them what I saw. Walked towards the building, and realized it wasn't alone. Multiple homes, buildings in the middle of the forest. It was a very small and isolated Native American tribe, and we backed away. Not super creepy, but didn't want to cause any trouble. We continued on without any contact. Not a hunter, but close enough. When I was in my teens, I was fishing with my dad at a lake that was a short hike, but not nothing, through the woods. It got dark and we started to walk back home, and something in the bushes right next to me growled at me. My dad said it was probably just some deer, but I of course knew that deer don't growl like that. Turns out it was a bobcat. Edit, he said it was deer because he didn't want young me to freak out. I probably wouldn't have, but who knows. Edit 2, fixed wording. Copying from a previous thread. In September this year I was hunting antelope out near the Red Desert in Wyoming. I had just shot my antelope and was walking about 150 yards out to where he dropped so I could tag and begin field dressing the animal. I should mention I'm about 40 miles from the main road and I had not seen another human or vehicle since I got off the main road. This area is so extremely remote it's hard to even describe. So as I'm walking out to the antelope I look up and about 1 to 2 miles off in the distance I see this extremely bright light zooming over the landscape and headed my way. I thought it was probably a game warden on a side-by-side coming to check my paperwork and all. No big deal, I keep walking out and find the animal and look up and this light dives down into the sagebrush and I can no longer see it. It was about half a mile from me when it disappeared. I also notice I don't hear any engine if it is in fact someone on a motorized vehicle. I'm mostly confused at this point, not sure what the hell this light is or where it went, but I continue on and tag the antelope. It takes me all of 10 to 15 seconds to put the tag on, then I look up and I see the light traveling away from me now and it's about 3 to 5 miles away from me and going at least 100 miles per hour. It was really zooming way faster than any vehicle could travel over that type of terrain. Also there are no roads or anything where the light is traveling, so I don't know how it was going so fast. I'm pretty spooked at this point. I field dressed the animal as fast as I could and dragged it back to my truck. I just had a very uneasy feeling at this point. I have no idea what that light was, although some others have speculated it was a drone, but if it was a drone operated by the game warden, why didn't he come check me out once I got back to my truck? Not a hunter, but here is my story. I used to be a field appraiser, you might call it assessor where you live, for a county in rural KS. I was at a parcel looking at and data collection some 20-foot shipping containers that had appeared in the last several months. It was obvious they were being used as hunting cabins during hunting season. As I was finishing up I turned around to walk back to my vehicle and standing right there were 2 hunters. They were dressed head to toe like snipers with ghillie suits on with large caliber rifles pointed at me. That scared the heck out of me. Of course they were mouthy and pissed off towards me, then when they found out what I was doing that escalated things even more. I don't blame them, really. They saw me walking around looking and measuring everything and taking photos of the place. My dad's childhood friend was killed in a hunting accident. He was shot right out of his tree stand on state land. This was back in the late 1980s, when I was young. Nobody ever turned themselves in and I doubt from the angle/caliber that they ever even found the bullet. To this day, his murder is unsolved. After that, my mom forbade my dad to go hunting, and by extension, me. I hear too many stories of people getting piss drunk and doing stupid things with guns in the woods anyway. I'm lucky enough now to own 10 acres of property where I can take a deer just about every year with a shotgun, but I don't think I will ever hunt on state land. I go out river fishing and tend to find some pretty remote spots. Usually really pretty scenery and just trying to bring in a fat trout. And hashtag X200B, however, there have been a few times I've been pretty spooked. 1. I parked my car by the river and entered in. No footprints or anything in the muck, so I knew the spot hasn't had any activity. When I was done and came back, I exited at the same point I came in. There was a fresh boot print next to mine. No car near mine, and it's pretty quiet with the road close by. I would have heard something, I figure. 2. Smells. Sometimes I'm walking and I just smell something way out of place, like someone plugged in a strawberry glade thing. Do some flowers smell insanely sweet? No berries in sight or anything. Sometimes the smell even just goes away. 3. The smell of marijuana, but I don't see anyone around. Makes me think they can see me. Probably harmless, but it makes me uneasy someone can see me and I can't see them. I usually just keep walking and find a new hole. 4. Sounds. Trees creak and groan. Then, I've heard buzzing, but not like a bee's nest. Just a buzz sound. Power lines? I'm not sure. 5. Finally, the realization that I didn't tell anyone I'm out here, and if I injure myself or drop my phone in the river or my keys, I'm screwed. Usually I'm not that far from a house, but there have been times that I'm way out in the country and there's nothing around. Like it's so easy to step wrong or into a deep hole or shit, you don't want to lose that $10 lure that you cast once and it's snagged. People fish nearby areas because first they are easy access, but second people can find you far easier if you mess up. Oh, I guess not really creepy but more funny. I'll see a random sock or shoe. Sometimes women's underwear, and on the rare occasion a condom. Used. There is a place near where I come from that has all the hallmarks of an excellent hunting area. Nobody goes there because there is a stand of giant Douglas fir trees that are at least 300 years old, and there are boots hanging by their laces, dozens of pairs, all hung in the very top branches of the trees. It's practically impossible for a human being to have done this, and nobody has a reasonable explanation for it. Even the most seasoned hunters will tell you to stay the hell away from there. Not a hunter, but I go backpacking and fishing quite a bit. I have an irrational fear of bears, and waking up to bear tracks around my camp was quite unsettling, and I did not spend much more time in the area. I've also had a creepy encounter with an overly friendly deer. I was in a pretty isolated area, so I thought it was odd to see a deer that was so calm around humans. This deer would not leave me alone. It walked around my camp all day and came back at night to scare the shit out of me by laying down outside my tent. After helping my dad and brother quarter a big bull elk in the middle of nowhere, I went up the hill first because I had the lightest load. I figured I'd get my quarters to the top and then go back down and help my dad with the chest cavity. It had just stopped snowing, and when I was resting at the top of the hill, I glanced down and saw paw prints in the snow that had no snow in them. I knew based on the size it was either a wolf or mountain lion, but after looking closer I realized I just saw pads on the foot and not nails/claws making a mark in the front of the print. This meant I was definitely looking at the tracks of a big mountain lion who had been 50 yards from us as we worked on the elk. My dad was at the bottom of the hill. I had a front quarter on my back, and a hind quarter on the sled I was pulling behind me, and no gun. I knew it was just 3 of us and I'd be around my dad the whole time, who was armed, so I didn't bring an additional firearm. I was a walking buffet standing right where the cat had been a few minutes before. There's no question he was looking at me. I calmly set the quarters down and made my way down to my dad. He agreed that I should have done what I did and even joked about it, saying, "At least our load won't be as heavy when we get back up there." I bet he took the front quarter. We got back up the hill and my quarters had been untouched, with no additional cat tracks around it. All 3 of us were paranoid as hell walking back the 2 miles to the truck, not knowing if at any moment the cat might decide he was hungry. We made it back home just fine and laughed about the whole thing as we were cleaning and butchering the elk.